Hey, it's William. In this video series, we're going to cover the mini version of the larger course that I did covering how to deploy Kubernetes. And specifically, all we're going to do is stand up a cluster and put a load balancing front end on that cluster using Hetzner. So to get started, we're going to go into the Cloud Console. You're going to create a new project. I'm going to call this one Test. And then we're going to go into that test and go to Security, API tokens, and we're going to generate a read and write API token. I will be changing this token, obviously, once we get out of this recording. So no point in fully using that. Then we are going to set up a folder here, and we're going to take our token, place it in that folder, in an envrc file. We've got two other exports. We've got cube config and the editor for VS Code. I am also going to pull over this, and actually I need to grab this one, a brew file. So on Mac, what this is a package manager. It basically gives you a way to install everything and keep things in sync. Where is that? So what I'm looking for is that I had to install something else. I'm trying to figure out which one of these. I did it. There we go. PCRE. So at least on my machine, it required this one as well. So now I can do brew bundle, and that will ensure that all of my stuff is set up, that I have basically the components that I need in order to build this out. And the other thing that I use in my environment is ASDF, and that's where this is coming from. And what that's basically doing is it's setting a version of dir-env. You can set your code environment that way as well. That way you've got a consistent setup across everything. Okay, so we've done that. Now we need, since we're using the tool, this Hetzner K3s, let me grab a version of that. This. This is our test cluster. We need public and private keys. I am going to copy. Actually, I'll do this off camera 1 second. Okay, I copied over my two keys I typically use. You can follow the instructions here on, I've added a README. The README links to this Hetzner K3s repo, and this is where the details are for how this is all set up. However, the important thing here is that you basically configure this, and then you can just launch it, and you launch it with this command. So in our case, we have our token in the environment, and we have cluster configured, and we have done our bundle. So we now should be able to create the cluster by that, and I believe the problem there was that I had not saved it. So, okay, we are off to the races, creating a cluster. So, a few things while we're waiting on that. We're using CPX31s, we're in Falkenstein. We have set up to auto scale with a minimum of 1 instance and a maximum instance of 5. So as we need additional servers for pods, it will automatically add those. CPX31s have, I believe, 4 gig of RAM. So if you have something that needs more than 4 gig of RAM, in terms of the pod budget, you would obviously need to use some bigger ones as well. And there can be more than one worker node pools. So that is building out, and then after this we will install the load balancer on the front end. Few updates just to show kind of what the logs look like. This is where it's starting up the environment, and things are still moving along here. It's now got the environment up. It's now deploying the Hetzner drivers. This is what allow you to use like Helm, for example, and have it automatically provision volatile stores and other things like that. All right, so we are up. So we're up, we're running. It put the kube config in the root folder here. So that's why when we configured the envrc, we linked there. So we are able to access our cluster, and we are ready to start the next step. All right, so next we need to install Traefik, and we're going to leverage Helm for that. I've updated the README to include the commands. So basically, we need to install, using Helm, we need to install the repo Traefik, and then update that. Then we need to go and create a values YAML file. And the big key is this. It's in here, the service and the annotations. This is the name of the load balancer it will create. in Hetzner. Note you'll have two load balancers. You'll have one for the API, and you'll have one for the all the external services. So that is the big thing to take away here. Otherwise, this is completely stock. And then, yeah, so that's basically it. So now we can go to our README, and we can install Traefik, leveraging Helm. Okay, so that is upgraded. And one of the things that we did when we installed the brew file is we installed the hcloud, which is the Hetzner Cloud command line interface. The plus of this is that we aren't exclusively tied to using Kubernetes to get the status of things. I now can go hcloud, and it uses that same token, that hcloud token that we used for setting up the cluster. And we now can see that we have a second load balancer, the external load balancer, set up and operational. So that's great. So we have that all setting, and we can go and check as well that our load balancer is configured in the system and ready to accept connections. So now we need to do the next step, which is basically setting up the front end keys. So the key here is that the what we're going to do is not use Let's Encrypt and 90D Windows and all that. We're going to leverage Cloudflare and their SSL. And the plus of that is that what it allows us to do is basically push all of that key management off to Cloudflare. So one second, let me start to get that set up, and then I'll show you how to do that. Okay, we have flipped over to Cloudflare. It's best to configure this on a naked domain. So I'm going to go and grab one of our kind of naked domains. So this domain doesn't really have any configuration in it at all to speak of. And so what we're going to do is we are going to delete these records. Maybe I won't delete those. And then I'm going to add a record, and I'm going to use the root, and then I need to get the public IP address of my load balancer. And it's important that this be proxied. And my thing is in the way. And there we are. And then I need to add a star. Okay, so I have the root and the wildcard going. Now we're going to go to here, the SSL TLS, and set it to full. And one second. Now we're going to go to origin server, are going to create a certificate. And we're then going to copy I did it over here. And obviously save that, and then we're going to create so that is done. And back to Cloudflare. Say OK. Turn on authenticated origin pools. So that, I believe, is it. All right. So we created OmaLab info, and we added these two certificates. So the next step is to create this generic secret within our cluster. The name here matters because we're going to need to map that into the secrets that we add here. So, so this needs to match, this tag here needs to match whatever we add here. And so now that we've done that, we can copy this, create the secret, and then again make sure this is set to the same thing that we just added right here, and it is. So then we can apply the secrets. And basically that creates the secrets. This creates the store of the keys. And then lastly, within Traefik, we need to make sure that this tag matches the tag that we added before, the OmaLab info Cloudflare TLS. And then this route, this is an ingress route, so basically how you configure routing. And this is where you're headed, right, to the Traefik dashboard. So if I wanted to have a second route in here for another way to get here, you know, on a dashboard or something like that, you would simply add that here, like this, all right? And that would be how you would add ingress routes. And so you'll have an ingress route file for every place you want to go, and you have the various monikers that you're going to use for connecting to those. So, and that is set to go. And so now I can apply. That, and we'll give it a second or two to come up. And while we're doing that, I'm going to copy over some stuff as additional things for you because we're basically at the end of our run. Okay, in the README, I've added shortcuts, and these shortcuts are essentially what you see here is that I'm using K and not cube control. So these are common ones that I use. Kbash also is nice because you can basically just say kbash space the pod name, and it'll drop you right into that. And changing namespaces, you can just say kn and then the namespace, and it will change to that namespace. All right, so so truth in advertising, I have some sort of redirect because I've had that domain sitting for so long. On this one, which was a fresh domain, I followed this exact same pattern, and this is what you should get. And then the other plus of this is any subsequent place you want to add, it's simply adding that ingress route. So you create an ingress route for the service and apply it, and then it will be here. And you don't have to deal with keys or refreshing keys or any of that stuff. And so that is it for this in 22 minutes. And we have set up a cluster. We have created keys. We have configured everything. And basically we are now set to deploy whatever we need to deploy into this cluster. And even with the inclusion of auto scaling, so we can scale it up dynamically as we need to. If you have any questions about this, please let me know, and thanks much.